Okay, hello everybody. Hi. Today we are going to talk about intercultural communication. Um, Normally this chapter examines communication between different cultures. Intercultural communication, also known as cross-cultural communication. It is a complex for a number of reasons. It is complicated in a way, and sometimes it is difficult to implement also. First, we know how difficult it is to communicate across social boundaries, right? Like a person holding Hindu belief sometimes might have a hard time communicating with a person holding a Muslim belief, right? White cloth in one culture denotes one thing, and white cloth in other culture denotes something. White culture is celebration in some culture, and white culture is a grief thing in other culture, right? If somebody dies, like if somebody dies, some people mourn during funeral time, while some people they celebrate. It seems like they celebrate with all this music and all these things in some other cultures. So also in some culture, in some tradition, in some belief, when somebody dies, right? They don't eat meat for a year, at least 3 months, at least 15 days, right? They become a vegetarian, right? In some culture, tradition and belief, what they do is they they start eating meat on 13th day. To my knowledge, in some of the cultures, they have to. It is like a mandatory. All right, they have to eat meat on the 13th day of of somebody's being dead. Yeah. Um, Also, one also in somebody's culture you cannot marry you cannot marry to a boy or a girl, to a man or women from like so many generations. If you're tied up, if you're related, then you cannot marry. But in some of the cultures you can marry. If you can marry your cousin. So there are things, therefore, it is difficult at times. So the concept of culture is itself very complex, right? It is very sensitive thing. Yeah. So let's look at the general problem of communicating across social boundaries, and let's define and discuss some of the key concepts associated with cultural analysis. Okay. Um All right. So, what are some of the objectives of this course? Is this chapter will introduce problems and issues which arise when we communicate across social boundaries. So, you can find that I've been repeating social boundaries many times. So, this is the keywords: social boundaries, right? Some of the problems, issues. Yes, and let us try to define cross-cultural concept and explain how cultural differences can be analyzed and compared. Let us also show how differences in cultural background can affect communication in the workplace, and so how we can develop strategies to overcome intercultural communication barriers also. There are some intercultural communication barriers, right? Barriers are problems. There are some flaws. There are some shortages. So let us see how we can overcome these things. Also, let's try to explain how management strategies can bridge cultural gaps. Because in one corporation, for example, in Microsoft organization, or let's not talk. about Microsoft. Let's talk about in any organization like Vadbat in a supermarket, Kmart in the context of Nepal. There are people from several ethnicity, several cultural background, right? So it is very tough to manage people. For example, a manager, uh, a manager might be from might be from one culture, and the workers might be from other culture, right? And something so it's sometimes personality, attitude, and belief uh, are also evolved from the cultural background, from belief system, from tradition. So that matters a lot. Okay, now let's say this culture in organization. Yes, that is the first thing here. So culture in organization, right? Okay. The everyday reality is that organizations are becoming more multicultural in two senses. Workforces are becoming more diverse, and organizations are more likely to communicate with customers and clients from different cultures. Right? Um, yes. So that is culture in organizations. Yes. Um, okay. So there is also a concept of there is also some of the concept of communication across social boundaries. Yes, we talked about this. Intergroup communication. Yes. Stereotyping. What is stereotyping? Stereotyping is a taboo kind of thing, right? For example, believing in caste system, believing in you know touchable and untouchable, believing in social caste and creed. These are the things. So a stereotype is a so I'm reading books definition, and that is written by Aronson, 1999. A stereotype is a generalization about a group of people based upon their group membership. To stereotype is to assign identical characteristics to any person in a group, regardless of the actual variation among members of that group. Okay, so stereotyping is also a thing. So I'll give you one case study. Consider a situation about where two groups see themselves as being in competition with one another. How far have these groups become involved in an escalation of conflicts, right? Do you see, like, I just want you to trace an example where you have seen fight, and the main reason of fight is, or the main reason of raise, and is culture. Okay, that is your assignment. That is what. Okay. Now, okay, cultures, like basic concepts of culture, like culture is defined as a historically transmitted system of symbols, meaning, and norms. So that is what Collier says. Norms is a normal thing, the thing that society takes as a normal is norms. For example, a heterosexual, marriage is a norm, is a normative society, is a norm, right? But a gay marriage is not norm in society, right? A women women smoking and women drinking is not a norm. In a way, if man does that, that becomes a norm. So it's a society thing. It's just the rules and regulations that is thrown by the society. All right. That is the thing here. So the other case I would like to give you is, what are the common stereotype of different cultural groups in the workforce in your region? So try to trace out some of the things like that. For example, in Nepal, for example, there are some castes untouchable, right? Like, don't take it personally. I'm just invoking the reality. Damai, who are very popular musicians, and without whose presence all the marriage is incomplete in a way. Like in a marriage, everybody wants to have the money. The Maibaza is very popular baza. It's a folk music, right? They're allowed to play music, right? And they say that it is auspicious if they play music, when there is a marriage ceremony. But they cannot go inside Brahmin's home. Brahmins, they don't even drink the water touched by them. I don't know, how sane or insane do you think that is? Sane in a way that people have been practicing that for like years and years. All so-called like Brahmin and educated people. Insane because I just find it insane, right? I find it stupid. So now you have to, try to trace those examples in your place, in your region, right? There might be some examples. You should not have to. It should not be just caste system. It can be like, for example, a teacher. You know, a teacher should not have a tattoo. A teacher should not pierce his or her ear. No, not her. Okay, his ear, right? A teacher should not have a long hair. A teacher should not wear a ripped hippie jeans, right? As if teacher is devoid of, teacher has to be avoided from all this fashion industry kind of thing. Teaching comes from something else. So to me, it doesn't make any sense, but it's a norm of the society, right? Many people, they give a glance, they give a look at teachers' appearance, right? In some colleges they don't do that, but in many colleges they do that. So that is also a stereotype. Okay, it's a generalization, right? Just because your teacher is where is your teacher has a tattoo in his hand, and your teacher has a long hair. Your teacher he wears a fashionable, like Korean style jeans. So he is not a teacher. That is what people think. It is not like that. Starting is using your noodles, using your little 15 billion minds, and what you teach is the composition of those 15 billion nerves that comes out of your mind, right? You gotta understand all these things. Okay. Now, that being said, those are the basic things that I'm telling. Let me see. Okay, so let's see. Relativism. Cultural relativism is cultures can be evaluated only in terms of their own values and institutions. From this perspective, we cannot even apply our own concepts of truth and consistency to other cultures, right? For example, what culture we are brought up in, right? We believe that is true. So, and relativism is in a way is a comparison. Okay, relatively, the word relatively is there. Yes, relativity, relatively, comparatively. Yeah, cultures can be evaluated only in terms of their own values and institutions. From this perspective, we cannot apply our own concept of truth and consistency to other cultures. So, you know what I mean? There is no comparison of one culture with the other culture. As I told you before, white dress is, for example, in Christian society, white dress is when you get married, you just wear white dress, white gown. Now, Asian people, not in Asian, in Nepal, if you get married, if somebody dies, like the bottom line, they wear white cloth, right? If I wear white cloth from top to toe, like I don't think my living parents will even talk to me. They think that I'm going mad. I'm crazy, right? But Christian people, if you wear white gown, oh, it's a fantastic thing, okay? And in spiritual culture, they wear white clothes. They wear white robes, white clothes. So it cannot be compared. That is the thing. So cultural relativism is something that it can be compared. For example, uh, mathematics can be compared from whatever book we study, from whichever university we go. can be compared. Accounting law maybe it can be compared, right? But this cannot be compared because X is auspicious for one culture and X is not auspicious for other culture. Like growing beard is auspicious for one culture, growing beard is not auspicious for other culture, and things like that. Okay, that is cultural relativism. Is just because you have one culture, it is true that one culture holds one belief, right? But you cannot compare with other belief system. Just because your culture does that does not mean some other cultures who do not do that, they are wrong. That is the thing. We understand a culture only if we work from within that culture and accept its values, even if we see them as illogical and contradictory. I'll give you one example. Brahmin and Kshatri, whatever, during a marriage time, they don't, they don't take anything. I think they take fish or something, a dead fish, but they don't take anything. Like, they don't take. They take fruits and fruits and dry fruits, right? Cashews, nuts, hazelnut, whatever, to the bride's place. But in some other culture, they take something, pork belly or something. I'm not denouncing something against something. I'm just telling you the fact. My lecture is not persuasive. I'm just being informative. So you have to accept things from one culture to the other culture, right? That is a thing. So ethnocentrism is now we have come to the topic that is ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is you feel like, so now you have to understand, you have to catch that little thread, all right? Center of your mind, you keep your culture, right? And you think that your culture is a center, and some other cultures are a periphery kind of thing. So everything you evaluate in your little mind, you put your culture in the center and you compare things. Hey, that it doesn't go that way, right? It doesn't go that way. Some other think that their culture is right, some other think that their culture is right, and this is it goes on and on for 7 billion people, and it doesn't happen that way, right? So in order to understand somebody's culture, you have to put on somebody's shoes. That is the thing. Ethnocentrism, simple is, it is the view that uncritically presupposes that uncritically with it's like unconscious bias kind of thing, right? Presupposes, see that it isn't, he or she does not suppose, presupposes. It is already in their automatic instinct, it is a mindset, right? For example, if somebody is getting married, and something is not working out nice, then they don't want to get divorced because they think divorce is a very anti-social kind of thing, which is not reality. You got married for maybe 3 years. You didn't even know somebody before 3 years. Your parents, they're reality, yes. Your dad, mom, reality. Your mother's womb, reality. Something that can you divorce with your mom? No, right? Can your daughter, can your children divorce you? No. So divorce is there when there is no, sense of ownness, sense of oneness, sense of ownness, like OWN, ownness, right? There's a divorce. It is okay. Don't you divorce your house when you go to work and there is a reunion, you come back? Don't you have not you divorced so many friends so far? You're not meeting them from long time. Have not you divorced your eating habit, your sleeping habit, right? You divorce with yourself because your yesterday is not gonna come back again, right? For example, if you're like 32 years old, 31-year-old you is dead. That's not gonna come back. So yeah, so it's a very tough thing. Ethnocentrism is In your mind, you're out of maybe 15 billion nerves in your head. So many, billion nerves are set in a way that we totally believe society is everything for us. That is not true. Okay. And it is very hard to jailbreak also. Some kind of strange thought attacks us. So that is why the topic is very popular, and ethnocentrism, right? Okay. Very much highlighting and focusing in one's ethnicity and putting that ethnicity in the center of your mind. You know, that is the thing. So, norms, once again, a norm is a rule, standard, or pattern for action. Unfortunately, the term can be used in two different ways with very different interpretation to describe what is normal or usual behavior in some community or culture, right? To set out an ideal or standard to which it is thought behavior ought to conform or which some legislating authority lays down. Um, yes, it's a norm. It's a norm, right? It's not a yeah, it's not a good thing to me, but yeah, it's a norm. Norm is like a society that has rules and regulations. It's a general consensus thing, generally held view, right? It's like a general agreement. Everybody believes the same thought, and that becomes a norm, and that gives rise to a normative society. There is a discourse, people follow that, but in next part of the world, it is different, right? It is different. And people are living there and they're having good time there, trust me. Okay, it is just our belief and norms, yeah. But you know what norms is, right? For example, if you are from Hindu society, you go to temple. If you are from some society, you sacrifice animals, right? And you think that is right. And you'll be waiting for like 1 year to sacrifice thing. You'll be happy. You find joy in that. But in some other culture, they don't find that. Some culture they find this. Some culture they find X. Some culture they find Y. Some culture they find G. Oh, no, sorry, Z. I like telling Z, because yeah, things like that. All right, attitudes and belief. So okay, we'll continue in next lecture. I'm sorry I was not available today, so I just thought to send you this little description. Thank you so much.